what made you transition from long distance running to bodybuilding?
Well, I will be 100% transparent. I didn't even want to transition at all. Um, I've been a runner my entire life. I was also a dancer. My mom is someone who believes you need to be active, so I greatly appreciate her philosophy, because I tell my patients all the time, movement is medicine. And food is medicine, and laughter is medicine. So I ran my whole life, and mainly because I've always had too much energy. So that's why my mom kept me active, because she's like, you're gonna wear me out. Running has just always been that thing that just makes me feel good, dumps the dopamine, and it helped me burn some of the energy that I had. And so I did it as long as I could. Well, when I turned 40, I started to notice that my body looked different. And the scale wasn't necessarily moving up or down, but just everything looked soft. Like I had never really been one that lifted weights, but like I said, I did ballet, I did tap, I did jazz. I was a flag girl, so I'm waving a pole. I'm a cheerleader, so all and running. So all those things I think just kept my muscles looking conditioned and looking like I was lifting weights, but I wasn't. So I like to say when I hit 40 or approached 40, I out kind of ran my genetics, because I feel like one of the things we don't talk about, and I'm hoping later in life, this will be my gig when I retire, is how early perimenopause starts, and those changes that start. So at 40, I'm looking at myself and I'm like, what happened to the definition in my arms? It wasn't completely gone, but I just didn't look hard. My body just didn't look hard anymore. And so I started running more. And my ex-husband was also away in the military. And like I said, I think running was a way for me to kind of have control when I, felt like everything was out of control. So I'm working full time. I'm raising, our son by myself, who's very active as well. He inherited that from me. And, I'm not liking the aesthetics of it all. Like I don't understand what I'm seeing. And so, I'm running more miles. So this is the point where I was running like 60 miles a week. So I'm getting stress injuries, and still my body isn't changing. Then I just was like, you know what? This is a lot of work. You need to hire a personal trainer. So I hired a trainer. And also, Alexandra, this was the year that I went raw. So I did a year of being raw. And I think that was, I'm not going to say it was a rock bottom for me, but it was a rock bottom in my deficit in nutrition, because that's, I'm getting all these stress injuries. I felt great. I felt amazing, but my weight wasn't changing.
Mm.
My body composition was looking different, and it wasn't looking different in a way that I liked. I just looked soft, and I just was frustrated because
Do you
I
think
didn't
this
know
is
what to do.
was it because you went raw that you felt your body changed, or was it because of perimenopause
I
or
think two
just
things.
aging?
I think it was both. I think it was the hormonal changes that start so early that, we don't think about because you're menstruating regularly, but also, I went vegan raw vegan that year, because it was my 40th year. People talk about 40 years of purpose and those things. And so, I was like, I'm going to make it a whole year raw vegan. So I'm, dehydrating and all of this, not looking at any macronutrients, just exploring different recipes, juicing a whole lot. So I'm not eating my food, I'm drinking my food, so you're getting a lot more sugar. I think a lot of times people think, oh, I juice, it's healthy. It depends on who you are and what you're working towards. I mean, if you're morbidly obese, probably is, but if you're not, and you have a goal to, put muscle on, or increase your lean muscle mass, it may be okay for one of your meals or snacks, but it shouldn't be what you're doing all day. And so, I was just basically eating a lot of carbs and fiber, and not really paying attention to, well, what's going on with protein. So
Mm.
that I sought out a trainer here in Charlotte who's vegan. And so I started training with this vegan trainer. And he looked at my nutrition because, you have to send all the things you're eating. And he was like, in my mind, I'm trying to make it a whole year without going back to cooked food or, heating things up to a certain temperature. And he was like, well, what I'm noticing is that you're drinking all of your calories, or you're eating these things that are healthy, but they're not necessarily beneficial for the goals that you have set for yourself. And because I am an overachiever, I was still trying to run. I was still trying to run all these miles and strength training. I wasn't ready to let go of that yet. And so he respected my wishes and we made it that year. I think I hired him in like August and I needed to just make it till November or something like that for it to be a complete year of me eating raw. And so once he looked at my nutrition and made some suggestions, it was my first real introduction to, how vegan nutrition or any nutrition should be tailored to the goals of the athlete or the patient. I can't just cookie cutter and say, well, this is what you need to do. And that's what most people do. And so, once we started looking at my goals, that's what allowed me to be more receptive as to, okay, I do need to eat this, or I have to eat these, X amount of meals in a day. So not only was I probably not getting enough, of the calories that I needed for the amount of energy that I was expending in exercise, but then I wasn't necessarily meeting my macronutrient, requirements to make this muscle come back. So I was basically just feeding the adipose tissue.
So are you saying that calories, because you probably had a lower calorie count than you did after you started weightlifting, but yet you didn't like the way your body looked? Correct. Is that because, are you saying that it's important to lift weights because it will build muscle and just lowering calorie count will not make you lose good weight? Because we Correct. Can lose lean muscle mass, but we might not be losing the fat.
That is correct. And so this was so eye-opening to me because, we know about body composition, but thinking about that in relationship to how your body is changing, and then trying to figure out through it all is, like you said, is this hormonal? I was really in that old school train of thought. So this is a conversation I have with patients several times a day, is most Americans are under consuming their calories. And so I have, people coming in and they're saying, okay, I exercise, and they may not be, exercising to the max, but they are moving. They can show me in their, their iPhone or whatever, their movement goals and all those things. So they're exercising and they are eating what they think is appropriate calories, but their weight isn't moving and they think something's wrong, or they have to have a thyroid condition, or it has to be something else. And a lot of times it's simply because their caloric intake is too low. And so when that happens, your body just senses like a steady state. You're not going to lose that weight. And that was something that was hard for me to wrap my head around as I progressed and became a pro athlete. And then, I remember asking one of my coaches, so when I increase my calories like this, am I going to gain weight? And he said, honestly, I don't know. I'm sure he did know, but I trusted the process, as uncomfortable as it was. And I didn't gain weight. I lost weight.
You lost body fat.
Correct. But I'm saying
you might have weighed more on the scale, right? But your body fat composition would be lower body fat, more muscle.
And I should definitely clarify. When I say weight, I'm talking about, like you said, adipose tissue. I gained lean mass, but also like my body composition changed in a way in which I liked. The scale may only fluctuate by 5 pounds, and really I was a lot underweight. So strength training helped me a lot. It helped me in so many different ways because I, number one, discovered I loved exercise at the age of 40. I thought I only loved running. I didn't think anything would ever satisfy that itch or, just satisfy me the way running did, because it gives you such a high, you feel so good. And I discovered at the age of 40, once I agreed, okay, I can't run 10 miles and then come and train legs with my trainer if I'm trying to grow glutes and hamstrings. Like, duh.
Not because a lot of people think more is better.
I should have known. Just in general. I mean, if your whole anterior chain is together because you run and you're using your quads, and I'm a distance runner, whereas sprinters, a little different. And I had no glutes, no hamstrings. I was just straight down in the back. You can't keep doing that. But sometimes we get so focused on our goals that we forget. And I've learned so many lessons, like I said, I mean, as far as if I've hired somebody to help me do something, take your hands off of it and trust that. And so to get back to your question, correct. When the calories are too low, then a lot of times what happens is that you continue to lose lean muscle mass because, nobody's really getting anything. And then, so it makes the fat look more prevalent.
Let's be more specific, because I don't want people coming away from our conversation thinking they can just eat more and therefore the fat will come off. What was it that you think? And as a bodybuilder, you're a pro, not only as a bodybuilder, you're a pro, but at changing body composition, you have sort of the secret sauce that a lot of people want because they feel out of control when it comes to their body composition. So what would you say to someone who's been dieting all their life? And let's say a woman who's 40, because that definitely is a lot of our audience. What would you say to her when she says, I want to look better? I want to have, which really means I want to have less body fat and look more toned. I think that's what most women want when they say want to lose weight.
Yes. I would tell them that we need to, consider hiring or referring out to a registered dietitian. And
to do what? To change their diet in what direction?
So most of the dietitians that I use are medical, dietitians, so they'll understand if that patient or person has underlying health conditions. That's number one. To me, that's important. If they're totally healthy, I can just refer them to a regular dietitian. But to figure out what is your basal energy expenditure, right? So how many calories do you burn just existing? Not exercising, just existing. So there are different, tests that can be done to assess that. Even one of my gyms, I mean, they do, that kind of testing. And then the other thing is figuring out active metabolic, like testing. What forms of exercise are going to get you into that sweet spot? And this is aerobic exercise, right? For losing some of the body fat. So what forms of exercise should you be doing that are most efficient for you? Because we all have muscle different areas, or we burn, more calories with compound movements or other things. So that's important, because then when you're going to the gym or you're working out, you're not wasting your time on a machine or I use this all the time. If you're able to use a stair meal, you're probably going to burn a whole lot of calories. But if you've had that active metabolic testing done, is it now burning muscle too? The other aspect of this is your movement. So if this person has no experience in the gym, then it would behoove them to at least have a few sessions or whatever with personal trainer. That's what I did. Not that I didn't have any experience, but I wanted to make sure I'm doing the things in a way that is going to benefit me for the goals that I've set for myself. Like, I don't want to just go and half lift things. I want to know, do I push this hard or do I not? And then once you kind of have done that for a while, you're more comfortable training yourself. You're comfortable with, counting your macros, putting them into MyFitnessPal or some, food tracker. And over time, then you just kind of know you don't always have to do that.
So, okay. So what I'm hearing from you, and by the way, folks, macros means protein, fat, and carbohydrates.
And fiber.
And fiber is a macro. Wow. But what I'm hearing is that we shouldn't over exercise, over cardio, because that'll break down muscle, especially if we're not eating enough. Correct. And that lifting is important to build muscle. And I would like to add as a woman that it's important also for our bones.
Bones. Oh, yes.
And also so that we remain toned, and muscle burns more calories than fat, and also keeps us metabolically healthy. So there's many reasons to lift, and lift on the heavier side, not just playing at it.
Correct. Correct. You're 100% correct with that. Also, lifting or some type of functional training where you're, either even if it's your body weight, depending on the age of the person, is going to also help with mobility. It's going to help with gait. So some people develop an unsteady gait because they have like stiffness or limitations in ranges of motion and other things. And then they start falling as they get older, because they can't stand up, they don't have enough quad strength. So they're trying to hold on or, other things. So it's important, even if you don't want to tone, but it's definitely important for all those things you said.